Good evening, late on a Generation Movie Monday night. Thank you for joining us. My name is J.W. Colwell. I'm joined as always by my good friend and co-host, fresh out of a screening that was not the Smashing Machine, which is what we thought it
No,
would be.
I'm very embarrassed that I made a bad call on that.
Is Rich
It
Drees? Rich Drees, how you doing tonight? How you
I'm
feeling?
doing okay. I'm doing okay. There were Smashing Machine screenings happening around the country that were open to the public. Um, I just
Interesting.
didn't think that I just made the guess incorrectly that they would also be the every other secret screening happening at that same time. Turns out the one I saw at Cinemark tonight was Dead of Winter with Emma Thompson, and
These
it's
these
okay.
screen, these screen on screen things are for AMC's. It's screen on screens. Um,
Hmm.
And so basically, but they'll warn you. They'll tell you it like if it's a horror movie, they'll let you know, right? And so like there are a bunch of them coming up in October that are all horror based. They call them
Oh, I'm
scream
sure.
on screens,
Eh,
and but it's like one of those things where it's like, is it worth it for me to go on a Monday night to see The Strangers Chapter 2? Probably not. As
I
much as I like
can see that
slash,
anytime. I don't think. But,
well, I'll go see it. I like slashers. You know this.
yeah,
Um,
I know.
And this one's set in a hospital, so I'm having all kinds of warm and fuzzy Halloween 2
Fuzzies.
vibes. Well, I'm having
Hmm.
warm and fuzzy Halloween 2 vibes. I also had vibes, warm and fuzzy vibes today. From this, I,
Yeah,
you know what? I think everybody's mad at Disney, and as they should be right now.
but I
um,
mean that's been a roller coaster. I can't believe that whole saga has played out in between like our
for
last show
four,
and now.
4 days, yeah,
Yeah,
4 days since he actually got taken off, and it will
and
end.
somebody is gonna write a hell of a book.
Well, it will end tomorrow night. The question becomes like the most interesting thing is Kimmel is for me. He's one of the vulnerable late night hosts. Everybody else is kind of like solid in their comedy, but you can always go to Kimmel and try to go after him for the Man Show, or try to go after him for that horrible sketch he did in blackface, or but of
Hmm.
all the things he's ever been taken to task for,
But
this was the stupidest thing. Like
true.
it's
I mean,
just
his previous stuff, it does show an arc of maturity over time. And
yes,
so you can sit there and go,
I would
yeah,
agree
the
with that.
Man Show was 25 years ago or whatever it was,
Well,
and
no, I just meant
taking
it as a
Frankenstein's money.
frame.
And
I just meant it as a frame for you could go after him for so many things if
yeah,
you wanted to.
mm,
The others, I think Colbert is hard to go after because he seems to be like a solid, not only a
good person.
solid, a solid comedian, but a good person. I think it's hard to go after Seth Meyers because he's super smart and he's been on SNL and he has a thing. Now Fallon, you want to go after Fallon, but what does Fallon do to offend anybody? Like,
And that's what you go after him for, honestly. He's so milk toast.
yeah, that he
Um,
doesn't.
I
That
don't
he,
use the word milk toast lightly, my friends.
yeah, yeah,
Um,
yeah. Two old white guys on a Monday night using the word milk toast is not.
yeah.
Don't take it lightly, folks. But like, he'll be back in the air. Although it came down that the two companies that had started this whole thing,
The two
Sinclair
stations with
and
Sinclair
Nexstar,
and Nexstar.
yeah, Nexstar might bring him back, but Sinclair is definitely not bringing him back because Sinclair has a string through it where they want to impress one person, and they're
Mhm. Yeah. Sinclair
everybody's
has very much had some conservative leanings over the years. A
but
couple years back
everything is an audience of
on
one.
John Oliver's show, they did a great like 20-minute dissection
Oh
of
yeah, he
Sinclair
was all
Media
about
Group.
it this week too.
Yeah,
He's like, we've
look
already
it up.
gone
Look,
through that. Yeah, it's a great
yeah,
episode.
I didn't get to watch last night's, unfortunately.
Oh, I'm sorry.
I was hoping to get
He
back from the
was
movies in time to give it a quick watch before we started here,
he
but
was
literally I
he
walked
was
in like
in
10 minutes ago.
rare form. He was in rare form,
Yeah.
and he also like
Well, he usually, yeah, when his
um
hackles are up. Mm.
oh well, and that's the other thing. Like he's another one that is very hard to go after because everything he does. Like one of the most interesting things you can ever read about or talk about or look at is how much work goes into Last Week Tonight. Like if you really like he's been on shows talking about it that it's a 6-week process starting with this is what we're gonna look at, and every show goes through a 6-week process to the point where they cycle through, and if your show's not ready, it gets put into the next cycle of 6 weeks, and above things. But like I said, Kim will be back tomorrow night, and what I would also say is it will be events television, but because I can't see it being like. And you're right, Kimmel has sort of shown a maturity, which is nice. And we'll see if he can what he brings to the moment now that he's been in danger.
It's the whole thing's been very interesting from let's start with a First Amendment issue where you have FCC Chairman Brendan Carr basically using his position as a bully pulpit to pressure economically.
It's not a bully pulpit. He's not a priest. It's a Goodfellas pulpit. It's a nice bar. It's a nice bar.
Something happened to it.
It's a shame something happened to it. It's been a very
bully pulpit is. It's not. I mean,
bully pulpit that's insulting to bully pulpits. I'm just saying.
You go from there. You have problems with ABC because right now, oh my God, Michael Eisner, the former head of all of Disney,
Eisner
who picked Bob Iger to be his successor, never ever speaks out about what's going on with the company anymore. He even was like, "Where's the leadership here?" So that was like a holy shit moment for me. That he was speaking out.
There were a lot of them.
Iger's trying to figure out his successor, and his successor apparent is Dana Waldron, who's the head of ABC right now. But if you're on the board, you go, yeah, let's make Dana Waldron, who Trump is already mad at. Let's put her in charge of all of Disney. That's not going to go well, I don't think, for them. So it creates a really sticky situation.
Who isn't that man mad at, though? That's the thing. That man is mad at everybody. So it is what it is, and we bounce along. Let's get some comment. Good evening, friends. Good evening, Ken McKernan.
Hey, good evening, Ken.
Good evening, gentlemen. Hi, Joe. Hi, Jerry. What's up? I will see you tomorrow night, but this is good. Jerry's gearing up. We're gearing up for our big thing. Would you like to join us?
For what?
I'm doing 31 for 31 again. 31 horror movies, 31 days.
Oh, goodness, no. I won't be able to do it. I know I won't be able to do it because I'm going to be at New York Comic Con for 4 days, and I've got the Philadelphia Film Festival, and that's probably going to be somewhere between 7 and 10 days, depending on what they schedule.
Yeah, you got a lot of stuff going on.
I just won't be able to do it. I appreciate you guys asking me, but
no, but it's an interesting premise. 31 horror movies, 31 days of October, and it can't be a horror movie you've already seen. So you can find classics you may have missed.
Oh yeah.
But watching new and exciting horror movies, I got one lined up for the first day. There's a movie
October, November is like complete
Shudder. There's a movie on Shudder called Night of the Reaper, which is getting good, fun, bloody, disgusting, good reviews. So I think that's going to be number one this year. A little bit of pretext. Also, so what else is happening? Let's talk box office, because as good as the numbers were last week, there's bad this week. Although Demon Slayer did very well. Again, 17.3, a 75% drop, however, Rich. But that's not shocking for anime movies. They're front-loaded. People go see them. They're big fans of them. If they're good, they'll go back a second time, maybe. Right? It's not. But that movie's at $104 million. The Conjuring Last Rites is at 150, so it's one of the biggest hits of the fall thus far. Downton Abbey dropped to third place. Kind of third and fourth are tied. Or actually fourth and fifth are tied, a little bit tied. 6.4 for Downton Abbey, bringing it to 31 million. And then The Long Walk only dropped like 47%. and I think that's word of mouth.
Mhm.
To 6.2, bringing it to 22.6. And I will say, I think when The Long Walk hits to streaming and gets wherever it's going in its final streaming iteration, I think that that movie will end up being very good. So Demon Slayer was number one. Long Walk did very well. Downton Abbey is fine. But the two big movies that opened this weekend, they kind of hit with a thud. Big Bold Beautiful Journey, which had good good
Good-ish.
pedigree, good
Mhm.
pedigree. You know, two Academy Award nominees, right? In a grown-up adult big boy movie, right? Big Bold Beautiful Journey. I saw it. It was okay. Like it wasn't. It's a little bit schmaltzy, but it only grossed $3.2 million, which is a huge. Like if you have two big stars like that,
Yeah,
you want
and
you want it to kind of
you
you
just
want it
can't
to
put
kind of
people in on their name.
you want it to kind of land. But it's a perfectly serviceable what dreams may come ish kind of movie. You know
Yeah, that is kind of the vibe I got. Let me ask you a question though.
sure.
Do you think people were put off by kind of like the goofiness of the name?
I think that's part of it. I also think it's
Yeah, it's not a great title.
it's not a great title.
I don't know what else the hell you'd call it, but
The Red Door. You call it the Red Door, or you
or
call it
Doors to Dreams. Ah.
well, just uh, doorways. Like sliding doors is already taken, but it's
Yeah,
similar premise. But like a Big Bold Beautiful Journey is goofy. Like the like look at this advertising. It doesn't tell you anything about the movie, and then when you get into it, it's very much a
apparently
broken people. Do you know what I mean?
it's gonna
Like
be a
it's
deep
not.
cut. Can you
Go
throw
ahead.
that poster back up for a second?
Go ahead.
Apparently, because of the yellow umbrella, Margot Robbie is now the mother for Ted Mosby's children.
Oh, there you go. How I met my journey. So but it's like I said, are the performances good? Yes, right. Is it?
I'm sure they couldn't.
Did I openly weep in an empty theater? I may have, because there's a very extenuating part of the movie that's about getting one last chance to talk to a parent. So that
I
shit's
might not hate
nightmare.
that.
That shit's nightmarish and not in the trailers. So, you know what I mean? It kind of plays it off as like, oh, we're gonna go back to high school and we're gonna do relive moments. There's very little moments in the trailer of her mom passing away and the shit she was doing during her mom passing away. But Robbie's good. Colin Farrell's always good. There's not really anything he's bad in. But it's one of those movies where I think it's a hard premise coupled with a terrible title, coupled with a weird spot in the schedule. Like mid-September is like what women are going to get a chance to go, because it's directly aimed at females, right? The demographic is going to get to go out. And then I saw that and I saw him in the same day. I saw him first. And this is, I would say the advertising on this movie has been terrible also because, up there it says from producer Jordan Peele. That is not how it's being marketed. It's being marketed as a Jordan Peele movie, and it's not. So the problem there is it grosses 13.2 million, but the reviews are terrible. It's one of the worst reviewed horror films of the year, and it's hard to watch. It's, you know what I mean? Like the real interesting thing is it's about football, but it's not football friendly. Like it kind of makes. So as a football fan, I watch football. I watch it every week. I watch people get hurt. I don't like the hurt miss aspect of it. I watch, for good hit, a good play. If you're a football fan, I think you go into it and you're like, okay, well, this is about a guy who's the greatest of all time. And there's something satanic going on, maybe, whatever you get from the trailer. And it doesn't, like, the kid isn't charismatic. And Marlon Wayans is really good in a super serious role. but it just goes fucking wonky, and it just like it has the last 10 minutes of a horror film should not be this ludicrous to the point where you're just like sitting there going, oh yeah, that sword makes sense. Where did that come from? Like, it's just
What?
yeah.
Oh God.
So it's just one of those misses, but it's a rare horror miss. It's a rare horror miss in a year that's been very much horror based. And I remember joking with you. Remember Jordan Peele wanted to produce a movie, right? He really wanted to produce Weapons, and he didn't get to produce Weapons. And then this movie comes out a month and a half after Weapons. And guess what? There's a reason it's the second choice of Jordan Peele.
Ooh.
Yeah, it's just not good. And like the other thing is, like, it's shot in a really wonky style too. So it's, you know, I was surprised that they didn't see at the ticket booth that there were strobe effects and all kinds of, like, I had one person walking out of the theater going, I have a headache. I have like legit migraine from the sheer amount of jolting, light
if
strobe.
you have a headache, don't take Tylenol.
For anything, apparently.
Yeah.
So both the big new movies bombed. Toy Story came back but didn't do great. Like, Toy Story is the exception of the being re-released rule, I guess. Toy Story didn't do that great this week.
The thing I saw this weekend. I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
I thought you were done there. Sorry.
Go ahead.
The movie I saw this weekend was Megadoc, which is the documentary about the making of Francis Ford Coppola's Megalopolis.
Yeah, I'm wondering when I'm going to get. I'm wondering when I'm going to get to see Megalopolis, because I missed it because I was away last year when it came out.
That's right.
I only played for a week. Rich, how about 20 for 31? Anyway, he doesn't like it. Jerry. He's not a horror fan. But so that's the story things that we got going on are like, we're heading into a weekend.
No, never mind. I can't talk about that.
You can't talk about it? You still can't talk about it?
The something I did watch also this weekend I can't talk about, horror related, but I'll tell you afterwards.
Okay. But you did get to see One Battle After Another, which opens on Friday,
yes.
Correct?
Yeah, I believe.
Is that embargo over? Or?
Vamp for a minute while I pull up the email and check.
All I do is vamp, sir.
Be advised that the embargo for One Battle After Another has been lifted. Yeah, it's a great movie. It's fucking amazing. That's coming up this week. There is a car chase towards.
I'm hearing about this car chase. They're saying it's borderline Bullet-esque, like Bullet. Willing to be mentioned in the same name. Vanishing Point. Okay, that's interesting. That's an interesting reference.
And Anderson's use of long lenses to shoot this thing is so fucking incredible. When you I don't want to spoil it anymore. The just saying it's just like one of the most amazing things I've ever seen. He shot it on film in 70mm VistaVision. It's stunning. I saw it in IMAX and was just blown away by it.
It's his first movie. It's his first movie in IMAX, which is kind of shocking. Mm-hmm. But interesting thing there is, and I know you know about this, but I don't know if people are realizing it. Nolan, who's now in charge of the Directors Guild, which came down this week, right? He's the president of the Directors Guild.
Yeah, he got elected president. Good for him.
Is pushing people towards IMAX. He's legit, like, consistently saying, you guys should be doing your stuff in fucking IMAX, and I can get you the cameras. I can get you and IMAX is like, yes to all of it. So that's. So is DiCaprio? DiCaprio's
fantastic. Um, the young actress playing his daughter, Infinity Chase, I think is her name,
I
is
believe so. Yes.
amazing. She holds her own against DiCaprio, and she holds herself absolutely goes toe to toe with Sean Penn, and
That's not a.
she's somebody I'm like, I can't wait to watch the next 20 years of movies that this young actress is
That's
going
not.
to make.
That's
Very
not
exciting.
something you can take lightly. Holding your own with
No, no,
Sean
not at
Penn.
all.
But so that movie opens on Friday. So theoretically, we might have like it's getting really good buzz. I think it's at 98%
Mm-hmm.
Rotten Tomatoes. Everybody's talking about it. DiCaprio is one of the few movie stars left that opens movies. So there's that, which is nice. But yeah, I mean, overall, news, films are kind of bumping along, trying to get to the point where I guess Tron Ares, but Tron Ares is only only previewing into the 40s, like, which is not going to sustain a box office. Although I did look at AMC. AMC has so many fucking old timey horror films coming,
Mm.
like
Oh,
A
Regal
Nightmare on
is
Elm Street,
doing.
Halloween, Friday the 13th, the original Friday the 13th. Like, I was amazed when I looked down at my coming soon thing today, and it was all fucking old horror films playing at various points. We've also had
Yeah, well, Regal is doing something similar too. Like this month, they've been doing like all classics. Like a coworker
I went to the
saw
thing. Oh, I definitely saw the thing.
Inception and Interstellar on a big screen. He was really psyched about that. But I'm pulling up what Regal is doing.
I saw the
Um,
thing a week ago, so I was super
yeah,
happy about that.
yeah.
Um,
Regal's got like again, Candyman, Friday the 13th Part 3, Nightmare on Elm Street, Scream, Strangers, New Nightmare, From Dusk Till Dawn, American Werewolf in London, It, Army of Darkness, which I might have to get my ass out to go see that if it doesn't
yeah,
fall.
I would see that in a theater just because I think the
Bride of Frankenstein, The Ring, Rosemary's Baby,
the
Creature
crowd.
from the
You know
Black
what?
Lagoon,
The
probably the
interesting
2D,
thing
not
there,
the 3D version.
the crowd to go see Army of Darkness in a theater are the type of
Mhm.
people I want to hang out with. Is
Yes,
more
but
is more what it is.
I really love that literally this list of Regals goes from Universal's Dracula and Frankenstein to Hereditary and Final Destination, the modern classics as well. I you know
Well,
I
we're in a
know I'm
weird,
not a big horror guy, but just looking at that list makes me excited about the variety that's there in the genre for
we're in a
people
weird
to
time.
go and
The
experience.
Regal daily showings. They've done everything from Dark Knight to Inception to
Mm-hmm.
Interstellar to I saw
Some
the
stuff
thing.
that was directed by somebody else other than Christopher
Right.
Nolan.
I saw the thing. The Psycho was one of them.
Mhm.
Saving Private Ryan was this past Saturday. They've done both Godfathers on 2 different days. I had a problem though. The Regal I went to, and this tell me if this has ever happened to you. So the Regal I go to see the thing in, and I talked about this a little bit, but I go to see the thing. It's a 12 o'clock show. It's in a different. It's not my theater. So I wasn't upset about it, but I go in and I
Mhm.
get in the theater, and as I got to the top of the hill to get into the theater, the top of the theater, like to get
Yeah.
in and sit down, I got hit with a smell, and I was like, something fucking died in here. And do you know like how that happens every once? Like it happens at theaters. And so I went out and I told the lady, and she's like, "Oh no, nothing died. It's just when it rains." I'm like, "It rains every fucking day. It's Florida. I'm just letting you know. It smells in there." I sat through the thing. I was like, "Oh, it's like smell-o-vision." Like I would imagine the carcasses smelled like this. You know what else we didn't discuss yet that you and I need to discuss a little bit? We need to discuss this guy.
Oh man, yeah, that was
Uh,
ugh.
it was hard. It's
Yeah.
hard, man. And I do what I often do when I get into these when people pass away or somebody hits me with a documentary that I went into the Paul Newman thing where I went into the Robert Redford thing where I was just picking and looking for things I haven't seen Like I've never seen Downhill Racer. So I watched it. I finally saw Downhill Racer.
I have a bad confession. I have a confession to make.
Go ahead.
As much as a fan I am of the history of the medium of films and the history of television, and especially 1950s, I've never seen Quiz Show. And
Really?
I had too much
That one
to
is
do
a
this weekend. I have it.
That
I
was
have
a
it
weird-
on my Plex. I've had it on my Plex for
yeah.
a little
That's
while.
a weird. That's a
And
weird. That's a
It's a
weird
bad
hole.
omission. I know it is.
It's
It
a weird
absolutely
hole.
is.
But we're
And when I
talking
thought about it, I was like, why in the hell haven't I watched this movie? I know what the movie's about. I know the story. It punches a lot of my buttons.
It really does,
And
because you like old timey TV. The other thing is, like, not only is it like one of his best directed movies, but like the Turturro performance and the fucking
Turturro's in it too. Yeah, there's another reason.
the Fiennes performance are so good. Like
Mhm.
that's a weird. Like I have like mine are like when I was a kid, like you pick up a lot of your movies that you see as a classic with your parents. My dad was really only like watched a lot of John Wayne, watched a lot of the classics, Guns of Navarone, Great Escape. You know what I mean? Like Lawrence of Arabia. I had those very much covered, but like 60s, 70s, and then into the 80s, like I picked, of course, like I was thinking about it. I picked up Newman myself, right? Because Sting and Butch Cassidy and The Natural and you know what I mean, and hate watching Out of Africa. You know what I mean? Like just because it's like it's just a really slow movie.
Yeah, you're not wrong.
I'm not wrong. And saying things like it didn't deserve to win. Empire of the Sun was better. Anyway, sorry. These are all overreactions. But anyway, but the Butch Cassidy and Sundance Kid, the Sting, the fact that he couldn't get the roles and Newman stood up for him and said, this guy, I'll work with this guy. He's an actor. Right. And once you fall in love with Paul Newman, you can't help but fall in love inadvertently with Robert Redford, like as a film goer. Right. And then you just kind of want to watch all his shit. Like I was thinking about it. I had never seen Barefoot in the Park. That's on the list for this week. Because then you read that like Barefoot in the Park was wild because he did it on Broadway. Not many actors got to jump from Broadway to the to film
version
on the a role that he created. And so and then we were talking about the Twilight Zone. We have a Twilight Zone episode coming up, which is one of the all-time classic Twilight Zones where he plays a very hip fully cool Robert Redford Death. He plays Mr. Death. So like that's coming up in like 3 weeks. I think it's episode 60 and we're on episode 7 for tomorrow night. So it's like that's coming up in a couple weeks. And you realize he started out in all these TV dramas and then he kind of just developed. But then forget about all the acting stuff. You have to focus on how he changed independent cinema with like the Sundance Film Festival and, getting movies bought. And like, you and I grew up at a time when Sundance was so fucking hot that a movie would go to Sundance. And if it premiered at Sundance and did well and got bought, it became the sensation for the year, like the Sundance hit. Right. And, almost all of our movies,
starting all the way back to 1991 with Sex, Lies, and Videotape.
Yeah, Sex, Lies, and Videotape.
It's like the first really big Sundance.
There are people that wouldn't have careers without him, right? Like, and I just think there's all that too. And then he was a good director, so it's like he did everything. And somebody asked, and this was a good question, and I'll ask you the same thing. Okay. Redford was a movie star. Redford was somebody that could open a movie and do well, and he could play across types. Who's left right now? Now, I know you might say one based on what we just talked about, but who's in that mold right now? I can only think of one. But then
movie when star,
like actor, movie star in the sense like
with a nice side order of directing. Oh, that can order something. Open.
Well, yeah, I don't want to do the side order directing. I just want to look at
Okay,
the directing,
because for that I would
directing
say
stuff.
Ben Affleck and Clooney.
Affleck's a good choice. I would say
Yeah.
Affleck's and Clooney for the directing side, but like a movie star with his like with the matinee idol good looks plus the chops. There's only like two.
I don't think there are that many people who can open a movie anymore. Obviously, you know.
I think there's two.
Okay, who? Okay, fire away.
I said Brad Pitt, right? Because F1, one of the biggest hits of the summer.
Yeah,
in the summer where it was all like fucking IP, right?
Mhm.
It's a movie that has nothing to do with anything and kind of just opens and he's walking around in half a jumpsuit, jumping in and out of cars, and he reminded me a little bit of Newman, right? Le Mans,
Fair.
you know
Yeah,
what I mean? Like,
no, I'll go with you there.
And then the other one I would say is DiCaprio. A DiCaprio movie, you know, the idea that this is the first time he's working with Paul Thomas Anderson, but DiCaprio, you know, Wolf of Wall Street and fucking Inception and fucking The Revenant. Tell me an actor that could perform in The Revenant, how difficult and horrific it was, and get people to go see a movie about a bear attack. Like, that's not easy. Like, you know what I mean? And I just think they have a lot in common. So just
well, the proof of the pudding for DiCaprio will of course be this coming weekend.
We'll see. I think it's going to be big. I think it's going to do fine.
Yeah. One other passing that not a lot of people caught from yesterday, actually, because not a lot of people realized this. She had a small career, and I say that somewhat tongue-in-cheek. Elaine Merck, who was one of 8 child actors who were hired to fill out the ranks of the Munchkins for 1939's Wizard of Oz.
The oldest living Wizard of Oz actor. I think she was 94, right?
Yes. There's literally one other child actor left, and then we've lost everybody who appeared on camera in that film.
I thought you were going to say a different one. Another person that passed away yesterday or in the last 24 hours, Ron Friedman, who was credited with Transformers and G.I. Joe: Real American Heroes, the writer that came up with the movie, the Transformers movie, the G.I. Joe show, and the G.I. Joe movie. He also worked a lot on Marvel Action Hour. Mm-hmm. He passed away as well. You know, graduated from Carnegie Mellon in our state. So, yeah, the losses are like, but the idea that we only have one person left in Wizard of Oz is interesting. It's you know,
there are so few links to the golden era of Hollywood left. And I think all the major ones, all the names that you could say right off the top of your head, you know, like even like Lauren Bacall, you know, she's passed away now. She's gone, you know, several years.
Mel Brooks. Mel Brooks.
I'd say he's more Hollywood Silver Age, like the 50s, 60s.
Yeah.
You know, he started in television in the 50s with Sid Caesar's Your Show of Shows.
Not a lot of people left.
But even his contemporaries like Selma Diamond, who was on that writing staff, Carl Reiner, who was on that writing staff. I think Woody Allen was on that writing staff for just a little bit, and frankly, I saw an interview with him over the weekend, and he looks like he's barely hanging on by a thread at this point.
That interview made it look like just made it feel like guilt. Lots of guilt. I don't know. He didn't look good.
We're unfortunately, and with Redford's passing, you know, he was very much a, you know, 70s movie star and an 80s movie star. We are moving into not the people we watched on TV, watch their movies on TV.
People we are moving
into that era for our age. Yeah, people we went to the movies and saw. And I know I have a list as long as my arm here of people when they go, I'm not going to be good about it. Starting with George Lucas, Mark Hamill, and Harrison Ford.
Harrison Ford.
Judging by
Ford,
how I just like lost it when Carrie Fisher died.
Yeah,
I'm
processing isn't going to be great.
No.
Lots of watching, Mosquito Coast, and just being like, yeah, I'm one of the ones that watch Mosquito Coast. And go fuck yourself. Or Witness.
Witness is a fantastic film.
Oh my god, it was the only shot he had. He's never won an Oscar. He never won an Emmy. He lost the Emmy this week. Anyway,
well,
let's talk.
Which category was he in? Was he in comedy or drama? I can't remember.
Comedy supporting actor, and he should have won. He was
supporting actor. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I do want to give a big shout out for the studio, and my God, Seth Rogen winning 4 Emmys as a producer, as a writer, as a director, and as an actor on that show. That's insane. I love it, but it's insane.
I also started The Pit. The Pit is pretty good too. Like
I've heard good things.
I hadn't watched it. It's like a hyper realized version of ER. It's like ER with no gloves on. Nice. Well, thank you. Church.
You do know the.
I know the DNA.
It originally started as a pitch for an ER revival.
But
they
didn't
want to do that with Noah Wyle, so Noah Wyle said, "Fine, I'll change 2 names and boom, it's
it's like crazy, and it's got a cool premise. The premise is that it's one day, so it's got like a 24 kind of vibe to it as well. Thank you, Church. Thomas Churchill, Rich Drees, Thomas Churchill. Thank you for joining us, Church. We appreciate you and respect your movie knowledge and your Hollywood moments. I appreciate you, buddy. Oh, okay. Anyway, I just read your thing. Let's go through this movie that deserves all its flowers. So we'll start with production. So the movie we're doing tonight is a little movie called Young Sherlock Holmes. And I got to tell you, I haven't watched it in a while. It wasn't available for the longest time on Blu-ray, or it was available on a disc that came out really early in like 2002, and that hasn't been available for a long time. But they recently released it in Blu-ray. So anyway, and I got to tell you, rewatching it tonight, I had... I think it's great. I think it's better. It's better than I like when I was a kid in 1985 when it came out. When I was 11, I didn't realize how good the adaptation was. Do you know what I mean? In the sense that it's got a lot going on. And so let's talk about the production, Rich. So they have a concept. Chris Columbus writes a screenplay.
This is in the Chris Columbus can do no wrong era. He's already done Gremlins. He's done
he's on
fire. Adventures in Babysitting.
Yes, he can do no wrong. He writes a script. It's an original story. It's not based on any Arthur Conan Doyle stories. In fact, there's no Arthur Conan Doyle stories, Sir Arthur Conan Doyle stories. Sorry, didn't mean to skip the knighthood, where Holmes and Watson have been together as kids. And the interesting thing here is it's basically Columbus trying to figure out the character by going back and giving him a backstory, which is kind of interesting, right? Because he said at the time, the thing that was most important to me is why Holmes became so cold and calculating and why he was alone for the rest of his life. That's why he's so emotional in the film. As a youngster, he was ruled by emotion. He fell in love with the love of his life, and the result of what happens in the film, he becomes that's a spoiler by Chris Columbus. He becomes the person he was later. So basically,
I think that kind of undervalues the Irene Adler character that Doyle will create and write about in one of the.
It does a little bit. It does, but it's not wrong. He's not wrong about how it impacts the character. But like everything looks great, and that is the one thing I took away from the screening tonight, right, Rich? So you have Spielberg comes in, and Spielberg, at this point, also in a can do no wrong phase, he comes aboard and he has the script checked. He wants to make sure it captures the Victorian era. He punches up the budget a little bit. He brings in a Sherlockian genius named John Bennett Shaw who read the screenplay. He allows him to provide notes to Columbus. He then had an English novelist, Jeffrey Archer, as a script doctor to anglicize the script and ensure authenticity. And then they proceed to, which I think is the most interesting part of this movie, they proceed to cast people with previous associations of Sherlock Holmes. So Nigel Stock, who played Professor Waxflatter, who's Holmes's good friend and the mad genius in the movie, he portrayed Dr. Watson with Douglas Wilmer and Peter Cushing in both sets of the BBC series in the 60s. Patrick Newell, who played Bentley Bobster, played both P.C. Benson in A Study in Terror, as well as Inspector Lestrade in Sherlock Holmes and Dr. Watson. And then they cast, as well, cast member Alan Cox's father, Brian Cox, of Succession, by the way. He would later play Joseph Bell, the inspiration for Holmes in the television movie The Strange Case of Sherlock Holmes and Sir Arthur Conan Doyle. So Alan Cox gets cast because he's Brian Cox's son, who played a character that was tangential in like a life story about Sir Arthur Conan Doyle. Mm-hmm. And I just think that's really cool. And the idea that Spielberg came in and punched everything up with making it very British and making it so it like you could, and I'm not saying, aside from the huge action sequences and, the special effects that's everywhere, that, is also very 80s, right? It's lots of action, lots of special effects. I mean, we're going to talk about some special effects in a second.
Yes.
But basically they punch it up, Spielberg, but he doesn't want to Americanize it, which is cool. And, as kind of points out how Spielberg felt about, because I think Spielberg was a huge Sherlock Holmes fan. So he was super excited. Like everything looks authentic. The fucking Ring. Nicholas Rowe, who plays Sherlock Holmes, looks great. He's tall and lanky and just gangly in a fun way. They do boys' school stuff where they basically, do pranks and all kinds of stuff, including the lost trophy bit. And then, what you have to get into, you have to talk about at some point, is that this is the first movie that has, and I want to get this correctly, it is the first fully computer-generated photorealistic animated character, a knight comprised of elements from a stained glass window. The effect was the first CGI character to be scanned and painted directly on a film using a RGB laser. Now, where it gets super interesting, and what we'll talk about later in processing, but I'm going to throw up a title card here, and don't judge. I was on my phone when I did it. You'll notice it says Glass Man sequence, and then it says Pixar Computer Animation Group, a division of Lucasfilm Limited. This, folks, is the first representation of Pixar in the history of cinema. So the stained glass knight sequence is a sequence in the middle of the movie. A priest gets hit by one of the blow darts from the Ramatep cult, and he sees whatever happens, you have horrible hallucinations, end up killing yourself or running out in front of carriages and shit. But
I am going to correct you for a moment.
Go ahead. Shoot.
Shame on you for forgetting that Pixar, I think, and this is certainly precedes the Stained Glass Man. Pixar was responsible for the Genesis sequence in Star Trek II.
Oh, but did they get credit for it?
I'm not sure if they got credit or not for it, or if it just came under the an overall umbrella of ILM getting credit for it. But Pixar was like this little group in ILM working away on computer stuff. And after a while, George Lucas was like, I don't know if this is really going to work or not. So he spun the company off in 86. And that's when Steve Jobs showed up with his Apple money and said, here, I'm going to become a major investor in this company. And that's what grew Pixar into the giant behemoth that it became once Disney bought it in 2000 and I want to say 6.
Interesting.
Yeah. But Pixar always had, even when they were starting to develop some early stuff, everybody's
That's
seen like
interesting.
Luxo, the
little
short that
lamp.
they did with
Yeah,
the lamb. At one point, they were Pixar was developing, and this is early. I think this is pre Toy Story. They were developing a Frankenstein, either short or a feature. Um, I was at an event where somebody who worked at Pixar as an editor was showing like old test footage of stuff, and one of the things was that Frankenstein footage. And damn, I'd love to see that again. But it was very rudimentary versus even what we got with like the first Toy Story. But and I think that was developed a little bit after this. But yeah, I mean, you have this. Pixar had the morph stuff in Willow, which I think was the following year. They were already laying down the groundwork for a lot of stuff that we consider
computer. Yeah,
you know
computer.
de
Computer.
rigueur
Yeah.
almost. Now they were
There
that's
is an entire,
all
just so
starting
we're
in
clear, there's
cadence.
an entire YouTube section on the Genesis thing, but it all says ILM. It doesn't say Pixar.
Yes.
Wah,
Well,
wah. I'm not saying you're wrong. I think you're right.
No, like I said though, I could see where it just would have been. Well, ILM, we're also doing the
ILM.
other effects here. We're shooting the opticals for the ships and everything else. So
Yeah,
it's just another thing we did.
Just on well, and before, like this is the first time.
It was
like,
Dennis Mirren on this one though, right?
No, it's Lasseter on this one.
Lasseter? Oh, okay. I thought Dennis Mirren was on
That's why I think it's very
the
specific.
Oscar nomination.
That's what. Oh, I don't know about the Oscar nomination. All I know is when it's credited on Lasseter's credited as the person that came up with it, and then you're right. Jobs comes and buys the company, but it is the first time that I was looking at it, and I'll go back and I'll check Star Trek 2, and I'll get back to you next week when we come back next week to finish up. But I'll check Star Trek 2. But so I think the interesting thing is a lot of it goes into this movie. What's interesting is there's a lot of production value. They get a lot of bang for their buck. The total cost on this movie was $18 million. They get a lot of bang for their buck, and it becomes a Christmas release. And here's where things get dark, kiddies. Because like the funny thing is, you and I have so many movies from our younger days that we love and other people love, but they weren't necessarily at the time hits or regarded in any way. Although this is a pretty well-regarded project, the box office on this movie is brutal. So it comes out December 4th. So it, a part time of the box office when movies are released and movies cruise all the way through January. It lasts about 5 weeks in theaters. It only opens on 920 theaters, getting up to a max of 1,500 theaters in the country. It grosses 2.5 million opening weekend, which is not great.
No.
It goes on to gross 19.7 million domestic United States. Here's where things get fun though. It grosses 45 million overseas. So it ends up with like a worldwide total at the time, almost unheard of in 85 of almost $65 million, because when it gets overseas to the UK, France, and all those places, it gets released with different titles. Like the titles are hilarious. I don't know if you've heard them. They're great. In Australia, it was called Young Sherlock Holmes and the Pyramid of Fear. Italian, it was just called Pyramid of Fear. Pyramid de Para. In Spanish. French, The Secret of the Pyramid. El Secreto de la Pyramid. Le Secret de la Pyramid. German, The Secret of the Hidden Temple, with no hint of Sherlock Holmes. Of course, gets released in England as Young Sherlock Holmes and grosses 45 million. The adjusted, by the way, box office for this movie.
Well, he's the hometown.
Yeah, he's a hometown hero. You can't go wrong with him. 62.4 million adjusted for inflation. So it would be one of the bigger hits in theaters right now. Just on tickets and box office. critical response then and now. Let's talk. So we use Rotten Tomatoes as a good aggregate. It's always fun to use. This movie is at 71% on the tomato meter, 63% from the popcorn meter. And I think a lot of that 63% is people like you and me from our generation who are like, who may have loved older characters because we saw them with our dads, Sherlock Holmes movies, Basil Rathbone, and just, watching movies with your parents. And then this movie came out and was one of those movies where it didn't like, wasn't beloved, although I was happy to report that Siskel and Ebert fought about that. They didn't fight about it, but they had a strong reaction to it, which is great. So Ebert, of course, loved it. He said the elaborate special effects also seem a little out of place in a Sherlock Holmes movie. I'm willing to forgive them because they're fun. Siskel writes, the production is first rate in all technical ways imaginable, but the villain that Holmes and Watson chase is not worth their intellect or time or hours. I tend to agree with it. I was surprised when I was rewatching it tonight. It plays like a horror film, right? It plays like a weird, wonky kind of slasher movie, because there's the people with blow darts and like people hallucinating, and and the bell, like the Pavlovian bell, and all these the arm bracelet that makes noises, and all kinds of go ahead.
Here's the thing that that bugged me on a rewatch, and it's the stained glass guy. That he so frightens the priest that the priest runs out of the church and into the ongoing horse and carriage thing.
I had no idea. How did they know that was going to be? How many horse and carriages there are? Like how dangerous?
Well, no, how did they know that was going to be his reaction? That he would run out into traffic, basically. What?
I don't know that. I don't.
Could just as easily have had a hallucination that caused him to curl up into a ball and shiver there until the drugs, flushed out of his system.
I had no inclination.
It's a dumb way to try to kill somebody.
No, I don't. I think
because you're banking that they're going to have a bad reaction and react in a way that will lead to their accidental death.
Well, and I think, but it works up to that point. Like everybody else has a real reaction to the blow darts, right? And ends up like, and one guy jumps out of a fucking window, the other like. I didn't hate that as much. What I did notice was I found myself really enjoying like the pranky early school ties, sort of like, we're going to pick on the new kid, and, and the new kid's going to become friends with Sherlock Holmes. And I found myself enjoying that a lot more, and then realized that we're going to get into a pyramid that's underneath fucking London. And we're going to, and also like, once you read that fucking Chris Columbus thing, is like, I want to know why he's so cold, where it couldn't be that he's just cold because he's a savant, right? It couldn't just be, it's got to be that we're going to give this beautiful woman.
Okay. Your mic just dropped out.
Oh, did it just drop out?
Did it? It's back.
Okay.
Yeah.
So the idea that you have to completely butcher your characters to get to a point where it's in the future, this is what Holmes is going to be like. I think it's mean. Also, I don't know that it needs that. Like when she gets shot,
I had a second.
When she gets shot and doesn't get rescued, I was like Watson has never been more useless. Like the 10 minutes leading up to her death, Watson is jumping around fire. He's figuring out how to get Holmes out of the temple. He which I thought was a super cool Goonies, we're going to hook it up and we're going to drag that entire fucking thing up. And it's also going to hook to the carriage and rip the carriage apart. And I'll have Holmes next to me and then we can go. And Watson, Alan Cox, spends 10 minutes going, Elizabeth, and he's pressing her tummy. And I'm like, bitch, get up, carry her, and get her to a doctor. Like your boy's gonna do fine against Atar. Everything's gonna be fine. Just get it. Like he sits with her so long, and then it cuts to the next scene after Holmes wins the fight, and Atar gets dropped into the water, and he's like glugging and whatever. And it goes. The next scene is fucking Holmes standing at her fucking grave. It's a little brutal. I didn't remember it being as brutal. I remember before going in, she died. But
kids movies and family movies in the 80s.
Everybody was
a darker streak.
A very
yeah. And I kind of like that. I mean, yeah, we don't want her to die. She's cute, and they seem to be a good couple, and you want that, everybody to be happy.
Good things.
But sometimes it's not it. I mean, this is not as dark as the ending of Time Bandits, for God's sakes.
Oh no, but, I will. Can I tell you
it's close? I would say
it's pretty fucking close.
Yep.
Can we talk about my favorite Pauline Kael?
No,
Pauline Kael. This sounds like a funnier, zestier picture than it turns out to be. As long as the movie stays within the conceits of the Holmesian legends, it's mildly, blandly amusing. But when one of the imperiled old men gives an elaborate account of the background of the villainy, your mind drifts and you lose plot threads. And when the picture forsakes fog and coziness and the keenness of Holmes' intellect and starts turning into a dashing action hero adventure, the jig is up. The movie lets you down with a thump when Holmes and his companions enter a wooden pyramid temple hidden under the London streets. There's a resounding hollowness at the center of this picture. It's like it's Levinson's Temple of Doom. That is brilliant. Because as we know, Pauline Kael hated the Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom. Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom came out a year before this. So there was a whole, not only was Spielberg trying to redo his image a little bit, because Temple of Doom kind of caused, and Gremlins caused so many fucking problems in the summer of '84. But Pauline Kael is calling him out and saying, yeah, this rings hollow. I will say that what I found really impressive about it, and it didn't bother me, some critics rip it, some English critics rip it for, throwing the houndstooth jacket and the deerstalker cap and the pipe, elements that in the 2025s, if we're making a Holmes movie, if you don't have them, I'm going to call you out on it. Right? The idea that
elements that Sir Arthur Conan Doyle never had.
Right.
But also he did. But Deerstalker Cap was in the films.
Right. The Basil Rathbone stuff. But the funny thing about it is it's viewed a little bit negatively. But I kind of look at it as the candy we look at when we go to see Superman or Fantastic Four, where we're looking for little Easter eggs, or when you're watching Peacemaker every week, what fucking Easter egg this week? You know what I mean? So I think that's part of the charm. I really enjoyed it. I thought both of the young actors, right, Alan Cox and Nicholas Rowe, are really good. They're playing roles that are not necessarily easy teenage roles to play. I can imagine playing Holmes just is mind-bogglingly hard, right? Because you have to know everything, and you have to somehow present that you know everything before everybody else knows. I can't imagine it's a fun role to play. You know what I mean? But everybody's really good. Production value is super high. Spielberg bringing the $18 million budget, and then how about that? How much can $18 million get you in 2025? Not a lot. Not a lot of special effects.
Covers your crafty.
Covers your craft services. Now, legacy and franchise. So here's the thing. The number one legacy, Richard, and I say this seriously. The number one legacy I'm going to give this movie, first I want to show some more pictures, how good the production values are. That sequence is great. That sequence with the gargoyles attacking the old man, fantastic. The flying sequences are super cool, even though they almost hit Big Ben, makes no sense. The graveyard scene's great. It has the pastry.
They're in London. They have to hit Big Ben.
Well, yeah, it's like fucking Peter Pan.
If they were anywhere in France, they'd be flying near the Eiffel Tower.
I don't know the fear you can understand with me, but I'm going to give you something. When John Watson was being attacked by pastries when I was 11 as a fat kid, that shit terrified me. I was like, I never want to look at a fucking pastry again. Fuck. But that sequence in the cemetery is really good. They all get hit with the blow darts. And then the sword fight over the Thames is pretty good. It's a typically actiony sword fight. But the number one legacy, Rich, is that the movie plays entirely through the credits. And at the end of the credits, we get this picture. And then we get this for our time. He signs Moriarty. So Etar, right? Etar, the villain of this piece, not only doesn't drown, but is an extended credit sequence at the end of the movie. It plays all the way through the credit. It's fantastic. I think if you're going to do a credit sequence, you should be as dedicated to the credit sequence as this movie is. It's great. It's just this long sled ride through ice-covered mountains, and it ends on a hotel, and the bad guy Etar shows up, and he does a fucking rock eyebrow raise, and he signs the guest book Moriarty, setting up what should be the inevitable sequel, right, Rich? But we never fucking get it. We never get a sequel. I don't think
we need a sequel. I think it sets up something that will get paid off in continuity 10, 15 years down the road. And I'm fine with that.
Oh no, I'm not,
because if you introduce Moriarty this early into like the Holmes timeline, it wouldn't make sense that years from now Holmes is like trying to figure out, okay, all I've heard is whispers of this Moriarty person. He's at the center of a web of crime, and I have to figure it out, and which ultimately leads to the final solution.
Oh no, I agree with you. I'm acting like I have a problem with it. I don't. I think it's one of the greatest things ever. I think everybody.
I don't have to yell at you later.
Yeah, no. I think it's one of the greatest things ever. I also think that every person who's made a Marvel movie, or maybe just Kevin Feige, saw this movie when he was younger and said, I can do the end of the credit sequences. I can do that. I can work with that. And
we have had end credit sequences before this. Obviously, there's that one final joke at Airplane, and Ferris Bueller was before this, and then there's probably one or two.
No, Ferris Bueller's after this.
Is it? Okay. Well, at least Airplane had that last joke of the guy sitting in the car
Airplane
going, I give him 5 more minutes.
But you had to sit through end credits on Zaz movies anyways.
Yes.
Right? And what I said, I think the interesting thing legacy-wise, this is the first end credit sequence that is supposed to lead somewhere else. Not a joke. Not
Okay, I'll give you that.
Did you stay all the way through the credits? The movie's over. Go home. Go. It's not that. It's you saw a villain, you thought he died, he didn't. We're giving you the entire credits. Because I remember when that movie played my dad's theater, everybody fucking left. Like nobody thought there was anything at the end of the credits. Now you can't, on a Friday night or Thursday night when you go to see new movies, nobody fucking leaves. Everybody just sits there. Mm-hmm. It's amazing.
I remember several years ago, and this is probably somewhere in the middle of phase 2 of, the Marvel films. I was seeing some movie, and at the end of it, everybody sat still through the credits, and there wasn't any like post-credit scene or anything like that. It was just regular credits, and the movie ended, and and people are all like, "Aw," and they stand up, and I just turned to the absolute stranger sitting next to me and go, man, we really are all Marvel's bitch now, aren't we?
We are, yeah. No.
Yeah.
But in reality, Rich, and this is just for people watching our show tonight, you're not Marvel's bitch. You're young Sherlock Holmes's bitch. Because the legacy of this movie is the credit sequence is so well shot. Rich, it is beautiful. Mm-hmm. It is a beautiful credit sequence. I was watching it today. Like, also the credit sequence begins with this amazing little thing. Although Sir Arthur Conan Doyle did not write about the very youthful years of Sherlock Holmes and his established initial meeting, Might Happen has been made with respectful admiration and in tribute to the author and its endearing works. I love this, right? Mm. And look at the fucking cinematography. It's beautiful. It goes on for like 10 minutes. And then I got my Pixar picture too. So, like, look at how beautiful it is.
Yeah. I will say, though, I mean, they weren't the first people to kind of fill in gaps in Holmes's life. There's
No.
hundreds, probably at this point, of non-canon Sherlock Holmes novels. John Gardner, who wrote some of the James Bond extensions, wrote 3 Moriarty novels.
Because he's part of.
Well, two of them were out in the 80s, and then more recently a third one. But I read the 2 when I was in junior high, because I was in an 8th grade production of like a junior high version of the William Gillette Sherlock Holmes stage play, and I played Moriarty. And
that makes a lot of sense.
Thank you. But
especially
so for
you called me
research,
out in the Genesis thing. You motherfucker, you.
So for research, I read, Doyle. I read the 2 John Gardner novels, and on the stage, on top of my desk, I had some, a bunch of books and some magazines and stuff to look like, oh, he's reading a lot. And the top magazine was an Ellery Queen's mystery magazine with a cover article by Isaac Asimov titled "Some of Sherlock Holmes' Greatest Mistakes." And it was a joke just for myself and the 2 other people in the scene with me. You couldn't see it from the audience or anything. But
that's amazing. That's an amazing story. I think the interesting thing is, one of the things that this movie does, though, right? So up until this point, Holmes has been first off, they've done various time frames, right? But this movie does take the conceit of writing an original work, and also takes the conceit of doing something original and bringing the character to the front, right? So I would say, like, the Cumberbatch Sherlock, not that it wasn't a direct result of this, but the Cumberbatch Sherlock, where they bring him forward and then they bring everything, all the different pieces around him forward as well. This movie at least gives the idea that it's feasible, right? Because up until this point, Sherlock Holmes has played a very, like, it's deerstalker cap, houndstooth, you know what I mean? Pipe, violin occasionally, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so I will say that this, Columbus, the other thing is, in the legacy of this, is that it was a dream team of sorts. Barry Levinson at this point was super hot, right? Fucking Chris Columbus, you could not put down. And Spielberg coming on to work on this. This is a dream team matchup in '85 where you're like, okay, you know what I mean? Like, that it kind of stands the test of time. Is it a perfect movie? It's not perfect, but it is a fun 80s movie, and it is a good movie if you are maybe trying to get 9, 10, 11, 12-year-old kids interested in Sherlock Holmes. You could do a lot worse than showing them this, where they maybe get a taste for it and say, they get an idea of the character. Just throwing it out there. But the end credit sequences, I think it's the biggest legacy by a lot. I think the idea that we have a fully functional end credit sequence that plays over the entire of the credits, and also I can never remember anybody staying for the entirety of the credits. We only in the winter time at my dad's theater in Monticello, New York, we only had one show a night, like a 6:30, 7 o'clock show. Because of the cold, nobody would come out unless it was a big movie, and so we only had one show a night. We're out of the theater by 10 o'clock. You know what I mean? And so I don't remember anybody ever staying for it. But it's a pretty great movie. I don't remember having problems. I want to show you. I have 2 other things I want to show you. One other legacy thing that I think is super cool that you may not know about. I got to find it first. Hold on. So 2 things. This, just so we're clear, is Alan Cox with Kevin Bacon. That's Alan Cox, who played young Watson, and his father, Brian Cox, which is amazing. Yeah, he's pretty good. He's hawking Burger King.
I hear good things.
And then I want to talk a little bit about, and I have to bring it up because I got to get the information on this, but I want to talk about this little legacy piece. There is a movie called Mr. Holmes. It is Ian McKellen. He's playing Sherlock Holmes as a 93-year-old septuagenarian, very old version of him. In this movie, however, where it gets interesting is that Nicholas Rowe, there's a sequence in the movie where Sherlock Holmes has sold his thing to movies. Nicholas Rowe, who plays Sherlock Holmes here, plays the Basil Rathbone Sherlock Holmes. He's called Matinee Holmes. And so it is the deerstalker hat and the pipe and the houndstooth. And so you get a brief glimpse of Nicholas Rowe and what he would have looked like if he was playing Holmes at the time when Holmes was the right age and Nicholas Rowe would have been the right age. And I find that fascinating. I find that amazing. A movie came out in 2015, so it's about 10 years old. But Nicholas Rowe is in it, and it's a really cool little legacy thing. It's just fun, and it's also a really good movie. It's Ian McKellen. You can't really go wrong, and Laura Linney. You can't go wrong with those two people. So we got one movie left in our back to school craze festival. Rich, where can people find? And then we have an announcement. But Rich, where can people find your stuff?
All of my writing, including hopefully when I finish it, a full review of One Battle After Another and a few other things that are coming out in the next week or two, can be found at filmbuffonline.com. We also have we also have a Facebook page where we let you know when new stuff comes out, as well as some, this date history and a lot of other fun things. And I can be found on the socials, on Twitter, Blue Sky, and yes, even Threads, although I haven't really used the Threads yet, at Filmbuff Rich.
You can find me, JW Movie Guy, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, Threads, Blue Sky, all those places. Also do a little show on Tuesday nights called this show, Loud and Nerdy, with my good friends Jerry and sometimes my good friend Joe, who shows up. But the big announcement we want to make, and this is a huge announcement for the network, this show will be premiering in a couple of weeks. If you know John Dugan, you love John Dugan. John Dugan, of course, one of the stars of the Texas Chainsaw Massacre, and many horror films, genre films. And we are starting the show with him. It is a world premiere show. It's called Riffing with Dugan. It's Thursday, October 9th at 10 p.m. He has got so many interesting stories, so many things. And we're booking guests now for it. So if you want to come on and hang out with, a guy that was part of one of the most legendary horror films of the 70s, and also just hear his stories and talk, and he's just a fascinating character. And he truly is a legit character. Riffing with Dugan will be premiering on our network on that date, Thursday, October 9th, 10 p.m. I will be producing the show some nights. Also, Joe will be producing and kind of hosting and helping John with, try to corral him. He is a free spirit, though, so we can't promise anything. And I think we're booking guests. I think the first guest is Mick Strawn, famed visual effects person. We're super excited. We have other things bubbling and boiling as well. Thank you for joining us tonight. We will see everybody next week, where it will be a terrible shame that people be throwing away a perfectly good white boy like that. Better Off Dead. John Cusack, Diane Franklin, David Ogden Stier, Kim Darby, and just one of the fun, amazing 80s movies that gets a lot of love now.
Curtis Armstrong
gets a lot of love now, but didn't get a lot of love in the 80s. But this, and I can't think of a better 80s teen comedy double feature than Better Off Dead and One Crazy Summer. Those are Cusack in fine form. And Cusack, by the way, gets Diane Franklin in one of the exquisite beauties of our time, of the 80s. And he gets Demi Moore in the other, and he's the luckiest fucking person on the planet. Last comment as we end. No Tylenol needed for that. Absolutely true. Thanks for joining us tonight. I can't imagine the lawsuits are going to be chef's kiss. Thanks for coming and joining us tonight. See everybody next week, regular time, 9 o'clock for Better Off Dead. Have a great night. Bye.